What if everything you thought you knew about cerebral palsy was only part of the story? What if you could gain invaluable insights into a thriving adult life with CP directly from someone who lives it every day? Welcome to Water Prairie, a podcast for parents of children with disabilities. I'm your host, Tonya Wallum, and I'm glad you're here. In today's episode, I'm joined by the incredible Brittany Gilbert, an author, filmmaker, and entrepreneur. Brittany shares her personal journey with cerebral palsy, offering powerful advice and a message of hope for parents navigating this path. Get ready to discover how to foster independence, build strong support systems, and embrace the boundless potential in your child's life. Brittany, welcome to Water Prairie.
Thank you for having me.
Our Water Prairie listeners are primarily parents. Sometimes it's grandparents and extended family and friends or teachers of children with disabilities, but it's primarily parents of young children. And they've all come from different experience levels. So because my education is low on CP, I wanted to ask you if you could describe what it is and how it might show up in a child's life, because I'm sure it's different from person to person.
Cerebral palsy, the way I would describe it is a developmental disability. And for me, I was diagnosed with it at 7 months. I wasn't, sitting up. I wasn't doing the things that a 7-month-old should do. And so, as I developed at a later time. And the best way to describe cerebral palsy, your brain and your body are maybe on different channels. Sometimes mentally you think you can do something, but physically you may not be able to do it. For example, something as simple as putting on a coat can be a hard task for someone with cerebral palsy. The way we speak, our speech can either be really impaired. Some people stutter. Some people, they have a limp arm, or, it's more of a muscular disability for some people, and for some people, it's more of a mental challenge, and it depends on if the parent works with the child. So every case is different.
Did you work with physical therapists when you were a baby?
Yes, I work with physical therapists, and I work with occupational therapists, and the difference is physical therapy is like learning how to climb steps, whereas occupational therapy is like learning how to dress yourself. So occupational is more of day-to-day life skills, like dressing yourself, feeding yourself, whereas physical therapy is more about building their strength.
Now, my daughter had occupational therapy when she was a infant and a toddler, where they came to my house. Did you have that type of services before you started school?
Yes. They would come, I don't know if it was twice a week, but yeah, they came, and I went to the film with them because I wanted to watch TV.
So then when you started school, did you continue with physical therapy and occupational therapy at school or privately, or how did you do that?
They had a physical therapist at the school, so sometimes during the day she would come and take me out of my classroom, and we go to another room and work on buttons and zippers and balance and things that would help strengthen me.
When you were young, I'm thinking maybe elementary age, because you're starting to get out with other kids, you're in school now, things like that. What were some of the ways that you were encouraged to be independent and to start advocating for yourself?
I think for me, encouraged to be independent, I first kind of noticed it when it was playtime, like recess, I would try to stick under the teacher the whole time because the equipment was not sufficient for someone who couldn't climb and, do all the things that the other children could do. But fortunately, they had a basketball court and a soccer field, so I gravitated towards soccer, even though I was the one that was just running up and down the field. And not really, getting the ball, but I enjoyed soccer and basketball.
Oh yeah, so being in more of a team setting.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that. Did you play any sports outside of school?
No, because of my CP, it just wasn't something that wasn't thought about beyond, doing it for fun.
Parents of children with cerebral palsy may feel overwhelmed or uncertain about the future. We're talking about how some of our listeners, they may be young parents and they have an infant or a toddler right now, and they might not be sure about what's going to happen in the future. Is there a key message of hope or encouragement that you'd like to tell those parents now for them to look toward the future with their child?
Yeah, my mother was also a single parent, and that really just kind of adds to our dilemmas. And I also had a heart condition. So you have this 20-year-old trying to raise a child with cerebral palsy and a heart condition, but we made it work. And I truly believe, because I am a believer, that it's just been the grace of God, because if it had not been for going to church on Sunday, reading the Bible, I think that my faith has been my anchor, and I understand that not everyone believes what I believe, and I respect that. So I think my overall message will still be to just try to find someone that's going through or has been through what you're going through, and it can be hard to ask for help because you don't want to look like you're clueless. You don't want to look as if, oh, I have a child that I can't take care of, or I don't know how to take care of. There's so many resources, so many people that are open to saying, hey, let's get together, have coffee, or, whatever the case may be. I think it's just a matter of understanding that you're asking for help, not for pity, but you're asking for help to better your child's life.
I think that's really important for parents to hear, whether their child has CP or any type of disability or learning issue, because parents get tired and we feel like we have to have all the answers. But I think it's good for us to all to be reminded that it's okay to get support. It's okay to talk to someone else about where your struggles are and to get someone else to kind of come alongside you. Now we're going to talk about your book in a little bit, but I know your grandmother was part of your life. Was she there to support your mom as well?
Oh yes, and I'm not saying this to make my dad look bad, but he was not there 95% of the time. My grandmother was there. My grandmother would come visit me. She would let me, stay with her when I wanted to. So my grandmother was a big, emotional support, especially for my mom, because I'm sure she was glad, when I would go to my grandma's house.
Well, and your mom, you said she was a single parent, so she's having to work and provide for you at the same time. So yeah, so she would have needed help to be able to do that, especially when you were young before you started school.
Right, and she worked part time, and the thing about it, my grandmother still worked. So unfortunately, when my mom had to go to work, I had to go with her. But she had a very supportive supervisor that would just let me sit in their break room. No one else came in the break room. No one else came into the break room. I would just sit there and play with toys, take a nap. So he was very generous towards me and my mom.
Wow. Wow. That's very unusual to find something like that. So your mom was fortunate to have those people in her life. That's so out of the ordinary too, from what I was thinking.
It is. Especially because she wanted the whole team.
So you've got your grandmother involved in your life, you've got your dad a little bit in there, and then you've got your even the employer is involved in your life to some level because he's allowing you to be there safely. Did you have other people in your life? Did you have any other babysitters or church volunteers or other people in your neighborhood?
Other family, I had my other grandma, my other grandparents, of course. They came to visit a lot, or I would go stay with them, especially on the weekends. And so we had some help, but not having my dad around, it really made it hard.
Can you think of a situation when, aside from your mom, and I would say even your mom and your grandmother, because they were so important with you, is there an example when you felt like really understood by someone outside of your family, and how, like, describe how that happened?
When my mom and I stayed in these apartments, there was this lady, and ironically, she was a single parent too. I would play with her little girl, so she and I were pretty close. She was about maybe 2 years older than I am, so she was my first, real friend.
The reason I wanted to ask you that is because I want our parents to see that, again, there's so many unknowns when you get started. You don't know, because you're working with therapists, you're working with doctors, you're reading all this information that might be more information than you want to hear right now. But you are going to have friends. You're going to find ways to play with the other kids, and maybe you're not going to climb on the jungle gym, but you're going to play soccer with them on the playground at school. And friendship is finding those things, no matter whether you have a disability or not. It's finding those other kids. And like I said, this one girl is a little bit older than you were, and I do hear that a lot, that a lot of our kids are friends with kids a little bit older. It seems to be a good fit, because you're not competing with a younger child now. You're able to just be friends, and you benefit as the younger one because you're learning from someone with a little more experience, who can teach you things. And so that there is room for friendships. And I would just encourage our listeners to get out there, get out to the playground, get out to community things, and let your child be in with the other kids so that they can start making those friends.
Exactly, especially when they're small, because kids from ages like 1 to maybe 5, they don't care if you have a disability, but they just want someone to play with. So I think that's the best time to try to allow your child to make friends, because children are not taught you're different than me, or you're this, or you're that. That doesn't start until school and they get older. So it's best to try to form or help them form a friendship while they're still pure.
It's a good point, and I will add to that that kids in that range, that 1, 2 to 5, are curious. They're going to notice differences and they're going to have questions, especially if your child has braces on their legs or using crutches or something. They're going to ask questions, but then it's not because they're passing judgment.
No, they're just curious.
My daughter has a saying where if someone's staring at her, she wants them just to come and ask the question. She's like, there's no question you can't ask. She will tell them why she has a cane out or why she's doing things differently or why her eyes dance back and forth. She's like, it's just an answer it doesn't have to be hidden. And in turn, that teaches your child that it's okay, that there's nothing wrong with them. You're just explaining that, yeah, this is just a part of who I am. The same as whether you have blonde hair or brown hair or, it's just part of who you are.
Exactly, and I think sometimes the parent may make it seem like something's wrong with them. You know how some parents will say, there's something wrong with your child.
Well, and as parents, sometimes you feel that that's what everyone thinks. And it's not always true, but you feel that way, and you want to you want to shelter your child, you want to protect them, but it's not always that way. A lot of times it's just curiosity or education, and there's not always a polite way to ask that question.
It's not. Sometimes the child will just say, why do you walk funny? They don't mean it in the way that an adult would say, why are you walking funny? A child is more, I just kind of noticed that you limp a little or you have braces on your legs, or I'm just curious.
Before we move on to, because I want to talk about your book, but before we do, are there any major common misconceptions that you've heard about CP? And if so, what are they, and what would you tell parents on how to kind of explain them?
I think the biggest misconception is that we can't amount to doing great things. I think people who have not just CP, but even dyslexia, Down syndrome, autism, just because we are different in how we do things, it doesn't mean we can't do things. So I would encourage the parent, if they see their child likes to draw, okay, that's an interest. So maybe help the child to develop that interest, because that might be their way of communicating, it may be their way of expressing themselves, but it's just a matter of watching your child, what do they like, what do they not like, and trying to play to their strengths, but still build some of their weaknesses, so that it's not this off balance scale.
I appreciate what you just shared, because your child's art may be their way to share with the world what's inside their brain. And if they can't clearly speak it to you, they may be too limited in what they can speak. And as you said, it might be Down syndrome, it might be autism. We have people with limited speech. There's different reasons why you can't communicate verbally, but it doesn't mean that there's not intelligence behind that lack of speech. And so that communicating in drawing or writing or whatever it might be may be the way that they're going to be able to share who they are with you. Let's move on. I want to hear about Rudy and me. Now, this is now, listeners, you heard it in the intro, but Brittany is an entrepreneur at heart through and through. And so she's finished all of her studies now, and she's out launching this business. And when you look at her website, you'll see some of what she's doing. And I think there's a lot more to come. This is just your beginning now. But let's start with the book itself. What is it about? How did you come to do this?
The book, Rudy and Me, is a fictional story of a little girl, she's 12, and her grandmother. And her grandmother had Alzheimer's. And ironically, this is Alzheimer's Awareness Month. I just wanted to talk to Brittany. And, the little girl, she's having some trouble at home. She has a new stepdad and he has kids and she just feels kind of left out. So she goes to spend the summer with her grandmother. And, things are fine until grandma starts doing things such as forgetting where they're going, leaving her keys in the refrigerator, and so it's later discovered that grandma has what's called early onset Alzheimer's. And the story actually came because my grandmother had early onset Alzheimer's. So I wrote the book in her honor and as a way to bring awareness about Alzheimer's.
When you're reading the book, that's not your personal story then?
No, I just wanted to do something to honor my grandmother because she passed in 2015 of early onset, and she was only oh my goodness, 64? Yeah, so she just really got it really early, and it just, it really took over her life.
Now, you've also, I saw on your website, you've also made this into a movie or to a short film.
Yeah, I made it to my first short film. I was so excited to do that because I always wanted to make movies.
What's coming up with what you're doing? Do you have another book coming? Do you have more films?
Yes, I would love to be able to one day pitch to, a studio like maybe Netflix or Lionsgate to just kind of want to do more books.
Before we finish up, I have been, for this season, I've started adding a section called A Day in the Life. And so I had one question I was going to ask you. Looking ahead, what are one or two things that you're most passionate about pursuing or achieving in your life in the near future? We'll put it that way.
I think it's trying to get a distribution deal or film distribution deal so that way my films can be seen on a bigger platform and I'll have more help as far as the producing and, putting the film together. So I think that a distribution deal and just trying to come up with another great book idea.
How can we get a copy of the books?
The books are available on my site, FireballUNLTP.com, or you can go to Lulu.com and I think Amazon.com.
Listeners, look in the show notes and you'll see the direct link for the paperback, the Kindle, and her website. And then let's add to that, you're on Instagram too. What is your Instagram?
Yeah, it's at FireballUNLTP.
Okay, so Fireball Unlimited, the abbreviation for that. I'll add that link as well. So listeners, if you have extra questions that you want to ask her, reach out through Instagram or through our website to do that. Well, Brittany, this has been fun. I'm glad we were able to work it out. So thanks for all that you've shared and being so open with us and just for being with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
What a truly empowering conversation with Brittany Gilbert. Her insights remind us that with support, advocacy, and a positive mindset, our children can achieve incredible things. If Brittany's story resonated with you, please subscribe to Water Prairie wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode filled with encouragement and resources for your parenting journey. You can also visit our website at waterprairie.com for more resources for parents of children with disabilities. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time.